Throughout the calendar of the Christian year, there are different things that pop up, different times that we have communion, different times that we celebrate different festivals and holidays and things like that. And sometimes those things can kind of get away from us a little bit. It's just something we put on a calendar. Oh, this Sunday, for instance, is Easter. We know what that means. Everything from the celebrating of the resurrection to the Easter egg hunts and the things that we do. But sometimes we forget about those in between times. Some people who celebrate a very colorful calendar, that which each season has their own colors and meanings and possibilities of ways that we could celebrate so that we're all in unity together as Christians. Some of these things, a lot of us just kind of forget about. Today, as I'm making this video on Thursday, April 2nd. So I usually don't say that the date because, we can utilize these devotionals anytime. But April 2nd, and this is what we call on the Christian calendar, it's the Thursday before Good Friday, which tomorrow is Good Friday, but we call it Maundy Thursday. Well, why is that? Maundy, the word Maundy actually kind of is a conglomeration word that literally means new commandment. It comes from that word. But anyway, on this particular day, we are celebrating and commemorating both the Last Supper, where Jesus instituted that first, what we might call communion or Eucharist, and we also talk about and commemorate the fact that Jesus washed his disciples' feet. So this is an interesting set of circumstances because right before Jesus was taken to crucifixion, he has this instance in which he knew he was going to be betrayed. So that's kind of what we think about today. And also, even in the midst of him knowing he was going to be betrayed, he does something amazing. He serves his disciples. Around that table, I can only imagine, we had people that were tax collectors, we had fishermen, we had all these different kinds of personalities and backgrounds and heritages. um, and and you got to think about some of the conversations they had from time to time. And over here we're having fishermen talking about fishermen things. Over here we're talking about tax collectors talking about tax collecting things, businessmen, people that carpentry and all of these kind of things. It was interesting to see these different people coming to the table. In the midst of this, Jesus washes his disciples' feet. He predicts his betrayal. And he says in the midst of this story, which we commemorate fully as Maundy Thursday, or as this leading up to this crucifixion idea. Jesus institutes these things, but he wants to remind the disciples of a time in which they were going to have to take this baton and pass it on. So he's looking at these people. He knows what's going to happen. He knows what the pain that he's going to feel. He knows the instances in which the disciples are going to argue, this is the way we should bring forth the Lord's message, and this is the way, he knows all of that is coming. Yet, he still serves them. And he didn't give up on them. So, in the midst of this, we go down and we're in John, John chapter 13. And we get to this point which makes us a little uncomfortable because he's kind of talking to them like they were kids in a kindergarten classroom. And he wants them to understand what it means to be a living testimony of Jesus Christ. So we get to this chapter and we get to this verse, which is starting with verse 34. He says, "A new commandment I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this," so he's talking about them, like, hey, make sure that we're keeping this all copacetic and we're keeping this all kind of, tight here. But then he said the second thing, which is outward facing. He says, "By this, everyone will know you are my disciples if you love one another." If you love one another. He didn't say, you got to be the greatest leader ever to be born. He says, they will know you are my disciples. You are going to get to represent me. And here is the criteria. If you love one another. I can imagine that there were times around this table in which they didn't relate to one another very well. Like, you got some fishermen, you got some carpenters, you got some, all these different people. They didn't speak the same language all the time. I mean, they spoke the same physical language, but you get my idea. They had to love one another in order for this to happen. And that, to me, is absolutely fascinating. So Simon Peter went on, "Lord, where are you going?" So remember, this is all Maundy Thursday stuff. This is the foot washing. This is the time of communion that we celebrate. This is the Last Supper. And Jesus knew he was going to be gone. They were going to have to take over. Where are you going, Lord? That's what Simon Peter says. And he says, "Well, where I'm going you cannot follow." So that's why he was saying, I need to make sure you guys got this all taken care of. It's interesting, isn't it? In our jobs, when we're at work, God gives us people to interact with. And if we're in a secular workplace, which I don't happen to be, but in a secular workplace, people are not going to be curious about Jesus based on all of the arguments that you give about how, it's historical, it's science and blah blah blah. One of the things that they're going to say is, number one, your testimony. That they're going to see that. They're going to hear that. But number two, how you love one another. It's interesting. We as disciples must love other disciples. We can't pick and choose. We can't look at them with a disdain. You will know your disciples if you love one another. Something to think about today as we think about Maundy Thursday and the reason for the season, if you will. It's because tomorrow something dark is happening. But Sunday, I feel like something great is going to come from it.